Well, welcome everyone. We're so grateful that you are coming to listen to our Zoom for this month of July. And it seems to be kind of a hot topic to talk about, chronic illness and how to take care of that. And so that's what I chose to do today and with Steve to talk about, all the new things that we've kind of done in quantum techniques and this healing modality to help people really thrive in their life. And so I'm Jody Colegrove, and I do energy medicine, which is the modality of quantum techniques. And I'm a holistic health practitioner that helps people, get their health back on track by clearing toxins and pathogens that are just in the way of us having that great health where we can really thrive. So I want to introduce Dr. Stephen Daniel, the founder of Quantum Techniques. So, yes.
Well, and you had a couple of questions that people had brought in. Do you want to tell me what those are? And we'll just kind of blend everything together. And I'm sure there'll be more questions from people that are on the call.
So as, when people aren't available to get here, I always ask, hey, is there something that you want us to cover in case you can't come? And so we had one gentleman asked, wanting to know what the root cause of Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and I hope I'm saying that right, but it's probably thyroid, and then neuropathy.
Okay.
And then this other one, which I thought was really a great question, and said, how do I bring more pleasure into chronic illness and joy instead of suffering?
Okay.
And that, I think, is kind of the crux of, yes, we can heal a lot of things, but you also want, the joy in the journey. And, so I think that was a really great question. So those are our two questions that people posed today.
Well, good. We've had really so many revelations. It's like they're not every month, they're not every week, they're starting to be every day. And it's kind of interesting. In my quiet time this morning, I was just blown away by what God gave me yesterday, and said a little bit to that, Jody, and we'll talk about that maybe at the end. And it's kind of interesting, if you've listened to my voice recordings, I've had a problem on them for 5 years. Had experts, nobody could figure it out. And I was just, in that prayer time this morning, and I was saying, God, boy, man, you blew me away. You're great at the big things. And he says, I do small things too. That whole thing you haven't received because you didn't ask. What are you thinking of? He goes, that recording problem you've got? I know what that is. I said, what? He goes, here it is. Took me about 2 minutes to fix it. Don't have the recording problem anymore. So it's like, he answers the big questions and the little questions, but you got to know how to ask and then how to listen what you ask. God's always given it answers, but because we think we know the answer, we don't listen to anything that doesn't fit our model, and God doesn't fit our model. So the issue, and one of the questions was thyroid issues and neuropathy. The issues for the root cause of all chronic issue and autoimmune disease is the same. The body's inability to detox, period. Doesn't matter what the field is. We're going to talk about that today. But one of the problems is we've not been able to go at it very aggressively because we didn't know how to fix the detox pathways, which we do now. And so, which blows me away, but I can do lead, mercury, and aluminum in one treatment, no detox, and it'll be done in 24 hours. That's unheard of. If you think about the metaphor of mercury detox, I don't care if it's homeopathy or supplements, it's very painful, very slow. And my metaphor is you've got, a rocky creek bed, and that's your detox pathway. And they say, well, if we just release it from all the tissues, like release the water from the dam, we'll just flood it out and it'll clean it right up. Yeah, but there's a lot of damage and suffering with that. What if we just create a new pathway where it can disappear instantly? What? That's possible? Yes. So we're going to talk about that. We have, I'm going to say Satan has given us a red herring to chase, decoys. and including me, quantum techniques, we've chased them. We've chased them through all medical systems. We're looking for frequencies, whether it's emotional, like, anger, rage, hatred, whether it's pathogens, virus, parasites, whether it's heavy metals, pesticides. We've been chasing the wrong target, because if the detox pathway is cleared, it doesn't matter what you've got or how many. Oh, you mean that works that way? Yeah. If we go back to the Garden of Eden, I think if Adam and Eve got a bee sting, it was gone instantly. Oh, what's that little? Oh, that's a little stinger. Oh, they never even noticed it. It was made to detox instantly. We are made to detox instantly. And so why we don't detox is resistance and deception. That's going back to the fall of man. We have an idea about what healing's supposed to look like. Doesn't look like what Christ did. We were told we can do greater things than him in his name. So either he lied or we have missed the boat. I not only missed the boat, I missed the fact that there's an ocean. Okay. And once you understand and start applying these truths, it's a very, very different game than anything I could conceive of. And healing happens faster than you can conceive of. So I'm going to weave this. I think the original sin, there were two creators in the garden. One was God and one was Satan. And how did Satan deceive Adam and Eve? He comes and he goes, "Hey, what you guys doing?" "Oh, we're just hanging out." "Where's the big dude?" "Oh, he's not here. He must be off doing another galaxy." Oh, there's deception. What if he doesn't show up tomorrow? Adam says, "What's tomorrow?" He goes, "Well, you don't know right now, but if God doesn't show up tomorrow, you're screwed." I mean, it's like if he doesn't show up and tell you what's going on, you don't know who you are or what you're doing. "You mean we really need that guy?" "Yeah, but you know what? If you eat of that apple, you're going to know everything he knows and you can be ready for tomorrow." Oh, so Satan created deception, resistance to God's flow, and time. When you're living at a time, you're living in your thoughts about the past or future. You're not in the flow of healing, gratitude, love, God's spirit. That's the way it works. So give me the apple. We've been saying, give me the apple. I know the answers. I'm going to do it my way since then. And it hasn't worked very well. So that's resistance to the flow of God in the moment. That's what resistance really is. That's the original sin, deception, resistance. And you did a pretty good job, but I'm going to do better. So I'm taking over from here. Okay. Now let's talk about how that manifests. And remember, we were, quote, given a sin nature. My theology, that was Christ dealt with that on the cross. Okay. I mean, he redeemed us. Well, then we don't have to have a sin nature if we know how this thing works. So I know this is sounding really bizarre, but for those of you who aren't Christians, I use this because that's my background. It's not up and running, but I was given to get a new domain name this weekend, and it's called The Blessed Paths, PATHS.com. And we're going to be working that through and have a parallel track to QT. And why did I say pass? Because there's a lot of people that weren't raised in Christianity. They have access to God like anybody else. There's one God. We use different names. So religion is kind of like the blind men, checking out the elephant. And each one of them could just see a little bit. Oh, must be a snake. He got the trunk. Must be a skeleton. He just got the tusk. No. And all religions they don't even come close to giving you an experience and an understanding of who God really is and how much he loves you, who you are in him, and his true love and power. That's the deception that started in the garden. So let's go back. Let's talk about miasms. Miasms are energy frequencies that occur at the moment of conception. And understand miasms are not just my biological line. Okay. It taps into the collective unconscious all the way back to the garden. Boy, I never really wrapped my head around that before. But let me give an example, and I'll be teaching in metaphors. That's just the way I do it. I can accurately predict the diseases you're going to get and your longevity based on the pathogens that you have at conception. Wow. Now, I think you can change that course if you know how, and you act early. You don't wait until the disease is fully manifest. And I've got some notes over here somewhere. I could pull them out and talk about them, but within the categories like mold, virus, I don't usually find miasms with bacteria, parasites, protozoa, mycoplasma. It doesn't matter how many frequencies the body identifies as live, except for mold. Okay. If you're born with one mold or if you conceive there's one mold frequency, you won't ever get rid of candida, and you might get cancer. Okay, if you get one mold frequency, you get cancer. With any decent treatment, you'll recover. If the body registers two, you'll definitely get cancer, and you'll register, and 80% of the time you recover. If there's three, you only have a 40% recovery rate. If there's four, you're dead. And I go back and I've tested hundreds of people I've worked with. That's true. So if we look at that, and I don't have a case in front of me, but I could. But if I check, let's just say the person has mold, okay, mycoplasma, and protozoa. It's pretty common. And let's say the mycoplasma and protozoa came through dad. It's important to know why. Because the sins of the fathers are visited upon the seventh generation. And if you have spiritual oppression, you can find it on our emotional chart, and it came right there. So we'll talk about that as well. But think about an old plow the farmer's pulling. Okay. Now, for every category, like this has mold, and I only get one mold in the imaginary case. Every category, I just set the plow an inch deeper. So if I've got three and only one mold, I got a 3-inch deep plow. Okay. The issue is that's only part of the issue. Let's say that I also have mercury, lead, and aluminum, which we all do. Well, I just added 100 pounds for each one of those on top of the plow. So now I'm digging not 3 inches, but 3 feet. Now, when you're born with something, the body doesn't recognize the danger. It's like I have three categories here. So imagine, I'm born in this little village, and these guys, they just dress differently. All black, mask, headscarf, carrying an AK-47, but they've always been here. They must be okay. And they hang out with the guys dressed in brown with the AK-47 and the guys in blue. Well, there's your 3 pathogen fields. Okay. The body never knows they're terrorists, so they don't say, well, stay out of my bedroom, stay out of my kitchen, stay out of the water treatment plant. There's no defense because they were never recognized as dangerous. That's not the biggest issue. The biggest issue is, what do those terrorists shield? What sticks to them? It's not a toxin field. So I'm just going to use myself in this case. If I just check, what did I've done this a long time ago. I didn't have mold, but so if you check, it's not going to be ingestants, inhalants, contactants, injectant. It's going to be pathogens, and they're all going to be dead. So in this field for me, oh yeah, big numbers, 5,000 viruses. Okay, no bacteria. Oh, 32 molds. Okay, 9,700 protozoa and 1,600 mycoplasma. These are all dead, but they're still messing up the system. So then I show where is that in the body, organ, glands, and tissues, just like we clear everything else. And it's done. Now, when you do this, you are creating a new neural pathway. And so how do we do that? We'll talk about this more, but there are 6 places you touch on your head. Oh, kind of looks like you're laying on of hands. Oh no, you're kidding me? Yeah, well, oh, that's what God kind of did. I think Christ was a showman. He could have just said, be gone, but he had to give you some kind of ritual to believe in, because they're humans, right? So if you stroke above your head 4 times, corpus callosum, meninges, scar tissue, cerebral spinal fluid, the very back top of the head, if you have our charged thalamus, okay, sides of the neck, stellate ganglia, tap above the ears. That is saying I'm erasing all the deep plow marks. So this can get its own virgin territory, and I can detox anything without a healing crisis. Whoa. Yeah. I do all this in my first session now. So that's how you create the pathway. And then you show where it is in the body. Okay, so let's go to heavy metals. It's the same thing. It's not the metals themselves. Now, they're bad enough, but what do they attach to? What are they hiding, shielding? This is where we get the idea of biofilms, okay? You're going to find very high numbers, maybe 25,000. They're all dead. Viruses, sometimes bacteria, not so much. Large numbers of dead mold. Again, sometimes parasites, some not, protozoal mycoplasma every time. And you clear them the same way. This is a different field. You reset those 6 points, okay? So then we look at our other friend, vaccines. Oh, yeah. Now, I'm 70 years old, and I don't believe in vaccines. So I've only had 7 vaccines in my life, all when I was a little kid. But those 7 vaccines had 192 man-made compounds in them. That's where the damage is. And then we say, did this pick up some trash? Are these shielding things? Oh, yeah. Again, it's not going to be toxins. It's going to be virus, mold, parasites, protozoa, mycoplasma. You show the body where it is, it's a different ballgame. Because anything you find now will completely wash out. So this helps the body recognize these were terrorists and everything they've been shielding. Okay. It, in a sense, uses God's teaching that healing should be instant. It shouldn't take time. Now, since then, we've even learned more, but that's by doing that. And then I do all that first. And then I'll go back and say, okay, what are all the spokes, organ glands, and tissues? Actually, I get that first because I like to see where I started. Then I'll run my scan. What are the organ glands and tissues involved? We call those spokes. We'd already cleared. We make sure we have that. Okay, do I have? And I'll take it further. Another step. How many spokes can I see? Well, let's say I see 192 spokes. Okay. But we were told, we could see through God's eyes and hear through God's ears and feel with God's heart. So I said, God, how many spokes do you see? See, I was using known and unknown spokes that I could see. When I ask God, I get a lot higher number, and none of them are unknown for some reason because he built the system, right? So I'll go in there and it's like, oh, I saw 192. It says, well, there's actually, 37,412. And I'll say, well, how many are physically? Well, you had that right, 192 physical. Do I need to know what they are? No. What? I got it covered. And another metaphor, I live on a steep little hill. And I've got 2 large plastic trash cans that you roll down, one recycling. I don't take time to pick through the trash and say, oh, I've got a virus in there, a bacteria, a couple of vaccines, some heavy metal, and a couple of traumas. As long as I have a clear shot to where the trash bin comes, I just take it out. Now, there's 2 ways. If my driveway's blocked by snow or somebody dropped a mound of dirt, I have 2 choices. I can create a pathway around that. I can remove that and get the trash down, or I have to dig through the trash and say, well, I'm going to have to carry one brick at a time. Yeah, I actually threw some old bricks away and a ream of paper and a half. Now I got to carry it laboriously over the pile because I don't know I'm supposed to make a new pathway. Okay. That's part of what we've been doing. We've been picking through the trash when you don't need to pick through the trash. Just get it down get down when the guy picks it up. So it's a very different understanding about disease. And I also think if you look at Christ's teachings, healing was instantaneous. And this is something for another day, but I'm going to give you a teaser. I was telling people, because I didn't ask, I'll say the big dude properly. I was saying, well, I'm getting it. I tested it. It's going to take about 4 days to fully download into the body. And I was thinking, I said, well, yeah, if Christ would have done that, the blind guy would have said, leave the mud on your eyes for 4 days. I'm going to, unlike our press secretary, I actually do cycle back. I'll come back and check in 4 days, and we'll do it again another week and a week after that. And the lame guy said, well, listen, I wanted to tell you, pick up your stuff and walk, but you're just not ready yet. Healing takes time. I mean, I'm God, but I got limits. So same plan. It's like, that's not really how he handled it. He said, get up, you're done. That means that he had to instantly heal the DNA damage for blindness. And I think we figured out, I think that's been revealed. That's something new I'm playing with. But for the recording, for those that weren't here, I pretty much destroyed my right elbow 37 years ago, weight training, and I've had pretty limited use. And about 3 years ago here shoveling snow, I kind of did the rest of it in where I couldn't use my right hand and take a glass of water unless I had my left hand underneath it. So it's pretty bad, and the best elbow guy in the state looked at it with MRIs and CAT scans, and he said, that's not coming back. That you don't have connective tissue growing from the muscle to the bones. There's nothing we can do about that. We get artificial elbow, should be a good candidate. Okay. So when I got this message about instant healing yesterday, I thought, well, let me do what I was told to do. And that was between 12:30 and 1. At 3 o'clock, I went out to get my, gallon of sun tea, and that, weighs 10 pounds. And I always lift it with my left hand because I can't with my right. And I realized when I walked into the house, I had it in my right hand. And it's like, oh, maybe that scan did something. Maybe it is instant. So since I can't leave things alone, I went into my office where I've got some weights, and I loved weight training, and I haven't been able to do it for many, many, many years. So usually I can do 2 or 3, and then I start getting pain. And so I leave it alone, and it's usually inflamed for 2 weeks. So I thought, well, let's just see. So I did something I haven't been able to do for 25 years. I did 30 curls and 30 presses with that arm. And I haven't been able to do that for 25 years. I had no pain and suffering. I thought, well, that's hard to believe. But let's see in the morning, because I didn't feel it this time, but I'm at inflammation. No pain this morning, no inflammation. And that's when I started to God, said, man, you're great at the big stuff. And he said, well, let me show you how to fix your recording system. So it's been a very interesting journey. But, to realize how much we've been chasing the wrong target and how much that's blocked our ability to help people it's very humbling. But also it's been humbling to be given a path that you can show people and teach people, because this is stuff people can learn on their own. So, and that's part of that new website that we're really thinking about, meditating and praying how to do that. And I'm sure the wisdom will come when it's supposed to. So the fact that you can go after anything, which I've never been able to do in my entire life as a healer, and know no matter what I find, no matter how deep I dig, if I just check and make sure there's a new detox neural pathway, you're not going to have healing crisis. Now, somebody did say, well, man, I sure pooped a lot. I said, that's not actually a healing crisis. That's literally getting the lead out, and we had done a mercury treatment and lead mercury. I said, it's got to go somewhere. So it wouldn't be surprised if you have more bowel movements for a day or two. If you notice your weight dropping because you're not full of what anymore. And it's kind of interesting. I noticed yesterday, I drink well over a gallon a day. And I realized that I only drink half of that. Well, I guess I've fleshed out so much, I don't need as much. So very interesting. That's a lot to hit people with to start out, but I'm more than willing to take questions.
Yeah, I appreciate, Steve, you talking about the different illustrations about what we're doing, because sometimes when I'm working with clients is trying to explain a little bit of, so I have a vision of what I'm doing. And I think I really enjoy the idea of that trash can, and that, instead of going through it and trying to unload what's in that trash can, and then that causing your symptoms, is saying,
Right.
we just need to get it through the debris field that's down to the bottom of the driveway so that God can take it out. And so, we're removing those things. And I think almost sometimes the looking through God's eyes is like, why, instead of us having a house and a driveway and a trash can, why don't we just get it back to the way I created it in the Garden of Eden, which is
Right.
trees and the beauty and that kind of stuff,
Right.
to start with.
Well, and it's kind of a joke, but I thought about getting a T-shirt. Hey, baby, show you my symptom. I'll show you a pathway. It's because all symptoms, physical or emotional, are resistance. Whatever's there, pain, discomfort, weakness, a virus, depression, we're made to experience them and they flush through instantly. It's our resistance against those because of, oh, I can't feel that, or I don't believe that. That's what makes them stick. So it's another metaphor I used at first is it's like you want to go play on the slide in the playground, but somebody's glued sandpaper to it. You can still get down that slide, but you're going to lose something, on your rear end, and it's going to be slow and painful. But what if you just take that off, Teflon coat the slide, and put some silicone spray, and then you realize, yeah, they did that to the monkey bars, the merry-go-round, and the swings. Well, let's just clean it all up, and that kind of gets back to when you're not exhausted and in pain, joy comes naturally. Joy and happiness comes naturally. When you're always in pain and always struggling and always exhausted, boy, you try to fake it till you make it in terms of being happy. But we weren't created to be that way. I do. Go ahead.
Is there any way to help us not want to stay in that box that we're comfortable with? Because we understand the lumps and the bumps and what we have to go through and how it feels. Is there a way to, like, I see the box, but to say, okay, I want to truly be out of the box and be able to do that?
Yes. It's kind of interesting. The other thing I found is you can aim this, and fits into what you're saying. With somebody that's got a block to muscle testing, you aim that, it's always involved with their third eye, and it is a fear field every time. A fear of seeing something I don't want to see in myself or others, a fear that God won't give me this gift. And you clear that, and all of a sudden it's like, I teach people how to see fields. Yeah. Muscle test. Yeah. All their blocks are gone. Yeah. It's pretty easy. You just got to know where to look and how to clear it. But I would say there will be some people. I've had one person that I did something on, and they felt the sensation. They have the greatest terror of any body sensation that they don't already know of any person I've ever met. And they said, don't ever do anything new to me again, ever. I said, okay, if you want me to just clear viruses and bites the rest of your life, that's okay. I accept you where you are, but just know that there's so much greater if you're willing to, do other things. But you got to meet people where they are, and I think that's why with this other website, we'll always have quantum techniques. and we'll enhance that with all this. But then we might have a parallel path, but very few people are going to start there because it's hard to believe. It's hard for me to believe. You know, I will tell kind of a story on myself. Seeing God as he is very different than what we were taught. And I have two stories, very true. I don't have a lot of childhood memories, but one, my parents were kind of sarcastic. And first of all, remember the story of the emperor had no clothes, and it was a little kid who said, hey, he's not wearing anything. So my parents told me when God made you, he threw the mold away. And I looked back up and I said, yeah, but some of it grew back. You know, I was about 5 years old. When I'm about 7, I can't remember the specific infraction, probably something I did to my brothers, or I wrote a crayon on the wall, and we just come home from church, and I'm fixing to get a whipping, and those were not gentle whippings. And I said, wait a second. Did Jesus die for my sins? Yeah. All my sins? Yeah, they're all forgiven. I said, did he forgive that one? You know, pushing my brother? Yeah. Why am I getting a whooping? Okay. Because God forgives you, but we don't. Okay. And therein lies the rub. God's already forgiven us and other people. We don't forgive ourselves and others. So, oh, that's resistance. It's stuck. They didn't think that was funny either. So, but kind of an interesting journey we're on.
There might be some questions if people have.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Open it up for questions.
And you can unmute yourself if you have a question. Yeah.
Hi, Jody. Hi, Steve.
Hey, good to see you.
Oh.
I have a question, and I've been working with you for a long time. And do you think that the mistrust or not believing that it works for one can also be a part of the block to detoxing and letting this actually really work?
Yes. I'll tell you what, going back for years, nobody comes to quantum techniques because, oh, I think that's going to work for me. They've tried everything else. They've lost all their money. And they said, what do I got to lose? The guy gives the money back guarantee. So absolutely. If we think, and I'm not talking just your belief, I'm saying there is a collective unconscious belief about what's required for healing and happiness. And it's basically by and large BS. So yes, and some of the prayers from the early people, they were saying, oh, God help me with my unbelief.
So would you add, yeah, go ahead. No. Yeah, so with this new work that you're doing now, the new scan, does that, when you do a scan on me, as for example, and you find all these new pathways, would you need to address those specifically to create that, or is that automatically kind of flushing out whatever is in the way?
I think God's got a pretty good trigger on our unbeliefs. So it's like, I've done a whole bunch of treatments I've got clients that they know, Steve, hit me with anything new you got. Since they're not going to detox. I've had several of them since yesterday because this latest download was yesterday. And they send me an email. I say, hey, I got something new. I'm going to hit you with it. They're going to try to explain it much quicker. I am in the process of dictating and writing stuff up now that I'm learning how to do some of that. And the next day they say, I don't know what you did, but I feel very different. And it's like, yeah, well, when I figure it out, I'll explain how that happened to the best of my ability. So they don't even know what I'm doing, much less know enough to have disbelief.
Yeah. Okay,
I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, I'm slowly letting you knock off my socks. So yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
I told Sonia that this will knock your socks off, and I've got to where I can't eat. I'm working barefoot, but I was looking for my socks the other day. They weren't even in the house. They're running down the street. They know they're going to get blown off anyway, so they're not even hanging around. So.
Good.
Anybody else have a question? I'm writing down the things that I can think I have blocks to, because I tend to have blocks to testing foods that I'm going to eat. And the thing is, it's like, well, if I find that it's bad or has mold like that, to throw it away. And so I'm spending money and throwing it away. And so, but anyway, you just realize that there's sometimes those just little beliefs that get you hung up. And so just kind of being aware of what they are.
Well, you know, I don't have food cravings. You know, I've been eating a certain way for so many years, and if I have good energy, and I mean, I do like super hot, spicy food, but I make that myself with jalapeno peppers and everything, and not jalapeno, serrano peppers. But what's happened recently is I don't have any more food sensitivities. I mean, I can eat dairy, I can eat wheat. I'm not used to it, so I haven't started, but I did tell Jamie that we need to get her mom's sour cream enchilada that was smoking hot, and her lasagna recipes, and we are going to have a little cooking party together. So we're looking forward to that. That's part of the fun and enjoyment of getting your life back.
Sounds like I need that recipe too. We keep playing with the green chili enchiladas. Got to have some of that in Kansas.
We'll have a party. When you're here in Arizona, we'll have a cooking party. Stuff, all the stuff we couldn't eat before, but now we can enjoy.
Does anybody else have any questions? Kind of hit you with a lot of different new ideas.
Well, if no one else has a question, I have another question. And you kind of mentioned it already and answered it a little bit indirectly through your question. So with this new way of doing it, or additional, like, do you see food sensitivities or any other sensitivities either leave or get better? Like, you know me, like I'm super sensitive to injectants and inhalants and all of that stuff. Can that also just get better through this new pathway work?
If you do the pathways on it, it clears. Now, I have had many clients that live in places like Missouri and Louisiana and Texas, and they were getting their adrenals knocked out, their sleep knocked out, pain, inflammation, heart tachycardia, because they're always getting bites. And now when I work with them, I'll check, well, you've had 17 bites since the last time, but they all cleared instantly. So yes, where bites no longer become a problem. That's a big issue.
Yeah, I mean,
it was for you, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you can clear that, I'm pretty sure you can clear. And same thing with pollens. There's a pathway for that. And it's not like I need a separate one for each bite. I did find it important because bites have pathogens. So a lot of times I'll create a new pathway. Probably I can do it together. But like for bites, viruses, bacteria, vaccines, now we can lump them together and it's quicker. But what's happened is, you know, if you do the miasm on mold with people that I've worked with for years that always have candida, 2 weeks later when I check them, candida's gone.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And last question, and I don't know if that's too soon or there's enough experience or research or whatever. It's like for someone that goes to menopause and does take bioidentical hormones like me, that I think I will have to take until the rest of my life.
Right.
Is that something that can also help balance hormones, or? Well,
I was taking thyroid meds. I haven't taken any for years, and that was old stuff. Absolutely. I don't think, you know, it's kind of like in the Garden of Eden, I'm pretty sure there wasn't a pharmacy. I'm pretty sure Eve wasn't on bioidentical hormones. There wasn't antibiotics and cold capsules, because as soon as it showed up, it was gone. You know, I don't know how far we can take that, but yeah. I know that it can't harm you to do a fast, and the scans are very fast. It doesn't take long.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll keep doing a few. Like, I mean, you did a few, and I'll just keep
going.
Shipping.
Right.
Okay. Thank you, Steve.
And let me say, this is kind of interesting, and I'm not saying this to brag on myself, but what you're really asking is there kind of an age reduction? And I'm 70. I can do things now I could never do at 30. Without effort, I'm doing like 360 to 400 deep yoga squats, breathing without stopping in the morning. And then I try not to do that every day. So I then just do 100 on my light days. And then I walk 7.5 miles. It's like, and then I work all day. It's like, I have energy and mental clarity that I haven't had, if ever in my life, for at least 45 years. And that's all been since January this year. In January, I weighed 228. This morning, I weighed 184. You know, it's just like, well, I fixed my sugar metabolism. and that was part of my carbohydrate intolerance. I couldn't eat carbs without ballooning up, so I just didn't eat them. I can have carbs, I don't balloon up anymore. Another issue for women, well, for everybody, but if you don't absorb fats well, then you can't protect your brain from like things like MS and dementia. Well, and that's why statin drugs are so damaging, but you also can't have proper hormone balance if you do not have fat absorption properly. That's because our body protects our neural tissue and makes our hormones out of the fat in our diet. So yeah, there's things that we can address quickly.
Super, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah,
Good question.
One of the things that really helped me, Steve, and this is not something we kind of talked about, but the whole idea of looking at the different neurotransmitters and how they really help or get them to balance with, like, say, GABA and and glutamate, because that helped to be really, really helpful.
Yeah. Well, I do I'll tell like some stories on myself. I do everything new on myself, and I don't put a filter on it because I'm pretty robust, and that allows me to gauge what I can do with people. And we had done so many of these things before, like we'd clear something, but then we'd go back and check their cannabinoids or all their, apoptosis, autophagy, or all those clear. Well, you can, on cancer, you can make a pathway for those. So I hadn't done any of that for a while with the new stuff. And then I thought, this was like last Friday, late in the day. And I thought, oh, why don't I just see what happens? So I cleared my cannabinoids. Now I do use for pain, like 1 drop of a THC tincture and during the day, and maybe 3 drops in the evening. I don't use more than that. That's not much if I slept great that night, and I woke up the next day and I was stoned. It's like, whoa, what did I take? I didn't take anything. My body just opened up all the endocannabinoids. And I still worked, I still functioned, but I definitely could tell I was in an altered state. That left about 3 o'clock. And so then got my energy back, and I'm working on projects, and I'm working on these lists eventually that people can just go through and use the new method and clear things real quickly. And, me not being the smartest, not being the sharpest spoon in the drawer, I decided, well, I'll just write them down and clear them. Got about halfway through the list, and then I stopped, which is a good thing. I got up the next day, and I was one tired puppy. I was very relaxed. I had no pain. That whole endocannabinoid scan got rid of some chronic pain I'd been having in my back for about a week trying to figure it out. It's gone. But the next morning, very, very aware that I was tired on Sunday. I just rested. I mean, I still did all my stuff, but my energy was down because it was taking all those scans. I had no negative symptoms. I wasn't quite as high energy. And that, that was done by the time I got up Monday morning. And then I started doing new stuff again. So, but it's very interesting how it works out. The same thing when I did this new scan on myself where I could use my arm again. Mm-hmm. About an hour later, I got tired. I wasn't exhausted pain, but I knew I was going to go out and take my dog for another 3.5 mile walk. And I thought, I'm supposed to rest. So the body does use the energy for sure.
So yeah, I just kind of wanted to back up with Sonia and shooting about, menopause, and I'm going through that myself. And so what I found is a lot of times it will hit those neurotransmitters when the change of, life happens. And so I've really struggled with my GABA for the last couple of years. And what you found is to make sure that GABA and glutamate are the same ratio. And right. Doing that was absolutely profound because I no longer had the dips of, depression or just moodiness or whatever. So that was a really neat thing. So I just wanted to kind of follow that up with Sonia. We do have a question that's come in from Jacqueline, and it says, so are you saying that we no longer do neuroplasticity scan, but instead you are just creating a new neural pathway?
Correct. It's a whole new revolutionary way of fixing neuroplasticity. And I'm going to come back to neuroplasticity, jumping into the GABA glutamate balance. Key issue in tinnitus, again, you can fix that. And if that balance is off, and tinnitus can lead to deafness if you don't resolve that, and then it also adds to your neurodegenerative disease like dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. So that's pretty important. Yeah, coming back to neuroplasticity, we have to, if you think about like Annie Hopper and Gupta, they have neural retraining, I'm blanking on exact words they use. DNR is one of the acronyms. And it's kind of like, my metaphor is, I used to live up in Flagstaff and I had a big 4-wheel drive truck and I'd go back, to cut wood back in the forest. And you're not supposed to go out back there when it's real muddy because you destroy the roads. And you try to be driving, and somebody went down there when they were supposed to, and there's big ruts in that road. You cannot go anywhere once your tire's in that rut about where that's going to go. Well, that's cognitive rigidity. When you have the same response of pain or fear or trauma or environmental reactions, it's going down the same old rut, can't get out. So my metaphor is they say, listen, let's just, just get your 4-wheel drive truck with a winch, a high-low jack, and a couple of chainsaws. Let's just cut another road right next to it. And you can do that. And those therapies do work. I recommend them. But it's a lot faster if God gives you a grader and you can just grade over the old road where it's no longer a problem. You don't have to spend as much time and energy cutting new trails. So this, in a sense, just says, that's great technique. Do this first and then see if you need it. If you do, it's going to be 1,000 times quicker and easier. Yeah.
No, it's a really good question. So thank you, Jacqueline.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions? Yes, there's a lot of new stuff, and we're, I think I spent the weekend kind of going over several of the scans that you've done on me, Steve, and kind of as a group and learning, and to try to figure out the flow. And but it's exciting to see, and the different things and how it functions, and it's like I've noticed right away, my dearest puppy loves to run around the golf course and eat elk poop.
Right.
And then we have to deal with the consequences afterwards. And so, trying to get her to not, let's say, like elk poop that much, but also I can definitely tell that the consequences are not as bad as they were.
Yeah.
And so it's neat to see, on someone that doesn't have all the ego involved, that they work too, and with pets and everything. So that does help. There's another question that came in from Victor, and it says, is it necessary to do the 6 points and then test for spoke pathways? Or is it only necessary to do the one thing?
Well, it depends on which model you're using. I mean, I think when you realize you're creating a pathway, you do the 6 points, or you say, you already know what it is. You've done it once. You can say, release this. Boom, release it. Or say, bless this. Okay, done. I mean, once you know it, once you know what you're doing, you don't have to go through steps. But it was interesting the way I was led to this is, I'm saying, what am I doing here with this thing over my head? Where have I read about that before? Oh, you mean the laying on of hands? Wow. Okay. So, it is interesting again, God gives you the desires of your heart if it's your heart for him. And I was fascinated by Stanley Livingstone, where the explorer found him in deepest, darkest Africa, and he's healing the natives. That made me want to be a doctor. And then my mom's mental illness, I knew medicine wasn't the answer, so I went to psychology, and now I'm doing this stuff someplace else. But you look at that, and then the other thing I remember very fascinated, and a lot of, again, with my mom's mental illness and how that affected the family. As a teenager, really struggling, I wished I had the gift of laying on of hands. I think we're there. I think we know how to do that now, and you can do it remotely. That's the that's what we're looking how to present that in that blessedpast.com. You know, I'm pretty excited about that, but I am fairly busy, so God's got to give me the juice and the people on my team. He'll bring the people in to help me get all that together. I think we had another question, didn't we?
Yeah, so it says Jacqueline's asking, what are the 6 points?
Okay.
And we have kind of like a sheet of that, but we could, Steve, you want to give it again? And I can also
Right.
send it to people if they put their email in.
Yeah. If you just run your hands over your head for 4 things: corpus callosum, okay, meninges, cerebral spinal fluid, and whether it's energetic or physical, these plows make scars. So scar tissue, that's the 4 things. The thalamus, I don't know if you can see, it's 2/3 up the way the back of your head. So it's about right here. 2/3 up, you'll feel a little indent. It's very forgiving. The sides of the neck, it's the ganglia, stellate ganglia. That is part of the limbic system. That's why they're using it for PTSD, depression, chronic pain, chronic. But if you put the word chronic in front of it, they're giving injections here. I had that done. First one was quite helpful. The second one, my body said, we ain't doing that again. But you can do that energetically. And then the old Neuralink way of setting things was tapping above the ears. So it's really 1, 2, 3, 4, side of the neck, tap above the ears. But you can just say release it. Works just as good.
Mm-hmm.
And see, part of what this is we're putting this in the collective unconscious. Somebody's got to lay down the information, and then we'll find shortcuts. And Jody knows what I'm doing now versus what I was doing a year ago is dramatically different. It's quicker, it's faster, it's simpler. It's like Jody is known as our librarian. She's got this notebook. It's probably 500 pounds with every scan we've ever done. And we're not going to be doing a training once a year anymore. I think we're going to be doing shorter trainings quarterly because things are advancing so quickly. I just did a training the weekend before, was it Labor Day? Memorial Day, whichever day it was, the end of May. And a week later, I had so much information it was obsolete. So, and I wouldn't say it's obsolete. It's driving a car when we now have a magic carpet. Let's put it that way. So we're going to do another training, you know, in September when people are back from their vacations and travels over the summer. Now I do train every other week on the phone, and I teach everything as soon as I get it in some kind of form. I can teach it, but that's part of being a part of a group. But then we try to have trainings where we're all on a Zoom call and we spend 3 or 4 days in practice and make sure everybody nails it before they go.
I put in my email so that if someone wants to get the list, if they send me an email asking for the list, I can send that to you. So that way you have, for me, even the wonderful spelling I do, it's nice to have the actual spelling. So that was,
well, and when I get some of these things organized, I've just learned how to, getting back to technology and I've got a dictation service and how to do that. Then we'll have an easy way. Right now, I've been trying to do it. And then Jamie's got to type it up. And, you know, she does have 4 kids, 3 goats, 4 cats, 2 dogs, and a husband. So she sometimes is a little late in getting things done right away. And by the time she gets it done, I've already got a new idea. So I'll be able to process new information much quicker very soon. But yeah, thanks. I'm glad to share. And, you know, this is very fun, very exciting for me. You know, somebody said, do you think you're going to retire? I said, I'll do this until I die. And if I can, I'm going to do it from the other side too. I'm addicted to doing this. It's too much fun.
So Steve, did we answer the questions on kind of what's the root cause of the different
yep.
illnesses? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind
of it's toxins, it's pathogens, toxins, frequencies. It's a detox field. Everything is a detox field.
That's where it gets hung up, is that detox.
Right.
And so it kind of just keeps backing up and looks like you still have the issue when actually it's just not leaving the body.
But let me say one other thing. I know we're almost out of time, but my thing for years was right-sided migraines. You know, severe head injury. I broken my shoulder, fractured my collarbone, separated my shoulder, hiking. So pain would start, right-sided migraine. My metaphor is that somebody standing right in front of me screaming at the top of their lungs. Well, I had another thing. When they're doing that, I don't notice it. It would just be fatigue. Another thing, about 1 out of 1,000 headaches would be left-sided. So when somebody's screaming in my face, I don't hear my dryer chime that, you know, that the sheets are done. And I sure don't hear my little oven bing, the roast is done. Well, guess what? When this was gone, and my nemesis was mycoplasma. It's like, wow, that's not happening. And then, boy, but I feel like I got run over by a truck. I'm so tired. Oh, what was that? Well, that only started 10 years ago. The migraines have started when I was 13, or the headaches, the pain. Oh, that's the little dryer chime. Okay, it's mycoplasma. Create a new pathway. Gone. Next thing, oh, left side of my neck tightening up. Oh, I'm on to the symptoms now. It's unwrapping. And I want to go back. Learning happens in layers. Healing is instantaneous, but it's dependent upon the level of truth you understand and can apply. The more you understand the more levels of healing heal instantly. So, you know, built another pathway for that. 10 minutes, it was gone. So these are just, I mean, these are things that if you would have told me I could do this a year ago, I would say, I don't know what drugs you're on, but if it feels good, I'll try some because, you know, that's incomprehensible. But hey, it's all natural. It's created by God. And for some reason, we've been honored enough to be given this. And our job is to find a responsible way to share it. I do know I'm not going to make a master list for everybody and just say, go for it. I'm getting a little more guidance on that because you can exhaust yourself if you do too much at once. So that's part of what I need to get some wisdom about how to process that.
One of the questions is, can you create a pathway to eliminate high blood pressure? And that's a lot of our clients deal with that for sure.
Yep, you can. Yeah, that's what I haven't checked my blood pressure since I healed my elbow, and my blood pressure is way down already. But I'm going to check that in the morning and see if it's, you know, like I'm very little medication and it's mildly elevated, like, you know, 130s over 70 versus 190 over 125 3 months ago. But, and I'm barely taking some medication. So I want to see with this new stuff if I can get that to clear. I think I can. I'm being responsible. I'm not saying, well, I'll just go off for everything and not check it. I'm not doing that, you know. So.
Well, great, guys. Thanks for joining us today. And we had a lot of great questions. And I hope it's kind of eye-opening. And like I said, we're just in the start of kind of getting these things together and, you know, excited to help you out. And so, you know, I'm trained in it and our practitioners are. And so if you would like to do a session, you can certainly give me a call at, or email me at jody@quantumtechniques.com and we can get that set up. There's several ways to, you know, keep in contact with us. You know, we send out these Zoom, send out a newsletter. We also have, Steve's been doing some new videos on our YouTube channel at quantumtechniques.com. I'm going to start loading in some of the stuff that I have on my own channel, which is Jody Colegrove. And that just lots of different, you know, videos on what we're doing and different ways to look at things. And so, you know, our thing is we want you to discover what is the root cause of that health issue so you can finally get some clarity, have your energy back and live in peace. That's what it's all about.
And if you've got a symptom, Jody can find you a pathway.
Yeah, there you go.
You guys have a blessed one. Take care.
All right. Blessings, guys. Thanks for coming.
Bye-bye.